China's peaceful rise to power was just an illusion. Coming from Japan, we know that the best way to deter further aggression by China and protect the security and sovereignty of our nation is to increase the presence of US military in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the problem under status quo is the recent Chinese aggression is threatening the sovereignty and lives of people in East Asia. First of all, let me analyze the context of this debate. Since the end of Cold War, US has been decreasing its influence. At the same time, China, who achieved rapid economic development, has increased military spending by more than 10% each year. At first, we believed China's rise to power will be a peaceful one, but the recent move of Chinese military proves that we were all wrong. And China started to send battleships to surrounding nations. And China has taken islands from the Philippines. The possibility of military conflict is higher than ever before. And people in surrounding countries are living with fears.
Only point, sir.
No, thank you. Facing such reality, last year, President Obama has announced a new plan to shift the military strategy to Asia. And we welcome this. Given such reality, the solution we propose is to be a realist and deter further aggression by China by force. And the best way is to maintain balance of power between China and other East Asian countries.
Only point, sir.
Compared to other actors, we believe US is the best. And let me define today's debate. By East Asia, we mean Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia. By increasing military presence, we mean following things. First, US will strengthen their alliances between East Asian countries by promising to strike back in the case of attack by other countries. Second, there will be more US soldiers, battleships, and military bases in the region. Yes, please.
US military is so developed that you don't need presence of US military inside the region. They can actually do even from the USA, not in the East Asia.
So, pardon?
USA has so developed army that they can move inside the East Asia even without having army.
No, presence of US military in East Asia is important, and it is what we want to explain in this debate. And thirdly, there will be more joint military exercises by US and allies. And for some countries, it doesn't necessarily mean more boots on the ground. But still, US will be ready to strike back whenever our allies are under attack. And today, we have three arguments. First argument is how this deter China. And second is why US. And third is the positive effect to democratization in East Asia. Now let me move on to our first argument about deterrence. As I mentioned in the introduction, China's aggression in East Asia is increasing year after year, and is threatening the security of surrounding nations. For example, right after the US withdrew its bases from Philippines, China sent battleships and took control of islands in South China Sea. Stealing islands is a clear violation of sovereignty. And another example is how the Navy of China and the Philippines crashed near Spratleys Island. The same thing happened between China and Vietnam, and Vietnamese were killed. Military clash always lead to casualty and might lead to major war. There are mainly two reasons why China won't stop if it keeps the status quo. First reason is because there is an imbalance of military power between China and surrounding countries. And second reason is the influence of People's Liberation Army in China. Even though Chinese Communist Party is moderate, the army is different. Military wants to expand their sphere of interest by achieving military success. This is especially true in the case of China because China operates based on the idea of Sinocentrism, where they claimed their hegemony. Moreover, China has a military doctrine called First Island Chain. By 2020, China is seeking to take control of islands of Okinawa, the Philippines, and Taiwan and Brunei in order to secure their homeland from air attack. And we can clearly see that China will continue invasion in the future. No, thank you. However, under our model, we able to establish the balance of power and protect the Chinese attack. And when there is a greater US military presence, Chinese aggression to surrounding nations will mean aggression to the US. Because the US will guarantee to strike back, and because the US counterattack will be faster and bigger, Chinese army has to face a huge damage to the military. Because of massive cost, and because China knows they have far less military capability, China will no longer attack and continue aggression.
Well, that point, sir.
No, thank you. Our second point is why US is the best actor. We are not saying US is perfect, but this is a comparative debate where we compare with other actors. Option one is East Asian countries themselves militarizing, but they don't have the capacity. The Philippines or Vietnam cannot find enough money to catch up with China. And there is a domestic pressure against militarization. They are not allowed to have nuclear weapons. The second option is through peaceful way, such as building economic relation or through diplomacy. But if this is possible, why did China sanction Japan? Even though Japan is a major trading partner, clearly economic tie cannot stop China. And compared to that, US is better due to two reasons. Firstly, US has overwhelming capacity. US has by far the largest military with most developed weapons, highest military spending, and it is only US who has 10 aircraft carriers. And US has experiences of resolving conflicts. The US had the largest GDP and is able to spend money for military. Secondly, US will behave responsibly because they have economic interest in the region, such as securing the Strait of Malacca. Also, the US respects the principle of freedom and democracy. Therefore, the US will not invade islands like China. So we strongly propose this plan. Thank you.
First speaker from proposition and call on the first speaker from opposition.
Trust, cooperation, and stability, rather than security and necessary assertion of power and instability in the region. Those are the factors that we need to stress in dealing with the current situation in East Asia in order to achieve peace. In my speech today, I'm going to firstly react on what the side of opposition brought us today on the table. They were saying that, firstly, about the possibility of attack of China on other countries and assertion of powers, and secondly, they brought us the argument about how the United States is the major power that should do this. And secondly, I'm going to bring my own constructive point about how we believe that actually the presence of the United States is a reason why the tension and why the current situation seems that there will be a conflict near. In my speech today, I'm going to explain you why the United States presence is unnecessary, but also harmful, and increases tension not only on local but also on a global level. The side of opposition in this debate wants to prove not only that their increasing presence is not a good idea, but also we would like to completely but gradually withdraw from the region, because we believe that the presence of the United States itself causes tension. So now moving on firstly to what the side of proposition bears on the table. Well, they were saying that China has been recently asserting its power in the region, and that it seems that there will be a conflict near soon. Therefore, the United States should stay there. However, what we say is that China is only acting as a reaction on what the United States are doing. Because what we see is that in 2010, the United States started to deploy their aircraft carrier in the region, and we say that these countries such as China, they feel threatened by the presence of the United States, and they are only reacting on what is happening. We say that the conflict may seem near, but it is not a cause that China wants to attack without any reason. They just want to protect themselves from the United States. Also, they were saying that they want the balance of powers. However, we say that the balance of what they are proposing is not a balance of powers, because what happens is the United States is asserting its power within the region, and it uses other countries to assert the power even more, and it is quite natural that China feels threatened. Now, they were trying to say us why the United States is the only power. The first argument was the first reason was that the East Asian countries are actually not able to do so. Well, we say that they are actually very much able to do so. They are growing economically, for example, Japan and South Korea. But also, even if this was a problem, we say that the international community would be able to help, because the international community is very much interested in the peace in this area. And if the United States are the one, as I will going to prove, are the ones that are causing the imbalance, then the international community would be able to help these countries. Therefore, we say that it will not be a problem that if the United States gradually withdraw from the region, that these countries will have the time to acquire their own military capacity. The second argument was about, the second point was about that the United States are able to act very quickly and save the situation. However, as it was raised in the point of information, we explained that actually what happens is that the United States are very much able to act, and even without the permanent presence in the region. Because what happens is, as it happened, for example, in 1950s, when there was a war in South Korea, the United States were able to get to that place quite quickly. And we say that with current technologies, they are able to be there within a few days. Therefore, we say we do not see how this would be a problem. And secondly, if there was a great conflict, for example, a nuclear one, then the United States would actually not be able to do anything with that, even with permanent presence. So now moving on to my own constructive about how we believe that a gradual withdrawal is the best possible solution. But we say that the tension between the United States and China is, and other countries in the region is extremely harmful. Because what happens is that China doesn't like the USA's presence, which is quite natural, because China is trying to increase its power, and it is interfering into the sphere of influence of China within the region. And we saw that in recent years that the territorial disputes between East Asian countries and have been gradually exploited by the United States as a tool to tighten its ties with its allies, such as Japan or South Korea. And we saw that they use it as to create a network of partnership to contain China. And we say that in this situation, it is very much natural that China feels threatened, especially when the United States are there, because it is its biggest rival in the international sphere of influence. And we say that the United States in this case pursues its own interests and uses Vietnam, Japan, Korea as a tools to do so. We saw that they created a strong partnership, which has a great impact on, for example, diplomacy, security, and economy. For example, in South Korea, the United States started a free trade agreement, which decreases the trade of South Korea and China. And we say that China very much does not like it, because the United States are trying to assert its power. Not only what is concerning the military, but also what is concerning the economy in the region. And that is only because the United States are able to do so, because they have a great influence in that region because of their military. Yes, sir.
Is it if it's percentage, it is natural decrease the trade with trade between China and...
Well, actually, it would not be something natural if the United States would not be there, because what happens is that these countries, not only that they feel obliged to have this relationship with the United States, but also they do not feel the necessity of creating the cooperation and strong bonds with China, as they feel safe because the United States are there. And we say that it is actually something that creates the conflict and perpetuates the problem. And we say that this lack of mutual trust is an essence of problems, because these countries become reluctant to cooperate, reluctant to compromise, and reluctant to actually create strong partnerships, which is a great problem on the local level. But also there's a global level which is much more important, ladies and gentlemen. This tension between the United States and China, not only China and the countries in the region. Because what happens is that currently China and the United States are the greatest and the strongest superpowers in the world. And we say that if the tensions continues to increase, we say that there are only two possibilities what will happen. We say that these countries in the world scale can have only two possible relations. And the first one is cooperative, which will not happen if the United States keep to interfere into the sphere of influence of China. And the second one is competitive, which is much more likely to happen if the United States keep asserting its power when it is necessary. And we say that this problem is much more possible, and it will create a great tension within the world's community. For example, when these countries need to cooperate with themselves, for example, in international communities such as in the United Nations, when they both have vetoes in the UN Security Council, or for example, when they will be solving world crisis and they will not be able to come to the consensus because there will be disputes. And we say that this kind of tension is extremely dangerous for the whole world to have the stability. And we say that this is a great potential to eventually start a power race and cooling the relations between these countries. And this is too close to the edge of the conflict. Therefore, we say that even if China would be able to assert its power in the region, even if China, for example, invaded some islands, we say that the impact of China and the United States relations on the world scale and on the local scale is much more important and much more harmful, and it will create a great amount of tension. So from all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, that we do not believe that China will want to attack these islands. From all these reasons, that China is only reacting on what the United States are doing, go with the opposition.
We thank the first speaker from opposition and call on the second speaker from proposition to continue their speeches.
Ideal, there must be military. We must not solve the problem by the power of military. This is ideal, but it is impossible. Please look at the status quo. Please look at the situation in the East Asia. We know this situation, really know this situation, and in fact, Chinese military has been expanding the power, and the countries surrounding China have been threatened by this situation. Our stance is clear. We want to protect countries surrounding China in East Asia, and the last resort is that greater U.S. military. This is our stance. Before telling our arguments, I have some refutation to their arguments. First, they said that the reason why China is expanding the military force is that that because China is scared of America, because without this, China, they're following the logic. Without this action, China will be they talked about as if without this, China will be attacked by America. But is it true? No, there was no logic. Do you think America have intention to attack China, even if China no thanks, even if China don't expand military? Of course, no. And China know that America has no intention to attack China if China don't think anything. So this logic doesn't stand. And secondly, what China now doing is what America had done in the past. But our side don't justify what America had done. But that means this cannot be the reason why China can expand the military. And the next, they said that because America has a great technology, presence is not necessary because America came from America. Military can come from America. But presence is important for two reasons. First is that without presence, America have no intention to retribute because there is a presence of military, U.S. military. There will be harm to America if conflict is occurred in East Asia. So America come. This is our logic. On the other hand, if there is no presence of a U.S. military, there is no reason for America to retribute to China. So we need presence. And secondly, the second reason is that if there is no thanks, if there is presence, the military in that country will be dependent on America, U.S. military, no thanks, U.S. military, and this will have effect to democratization. This is our third argument, so I will explain about later. And next, in their first argument, they said that we should solve the problem by compromising or making relationship and so on. But we have done this, and we know that this this had ended in failure. And our logic is clear why compromising is not enough. Chinese military have long-term incentive to invade other countries. As I explained by saying that the example of first island chain, Chinese military have intention to invade the surrounding countries. For military, this is the legitimacy for China. So to realize this action, we need power, because only power can be worked to military. Now, moving on to our third argument. Our third argument is democratization. Greater U.S. military presence is not just a debate about security, but also has effect to democratization in the region. When you look at status quo, there are no democracies existing, and human rights abusing existing in countries like Burma, Singapore, or Vietnam. At the same time, these countries are calling for U.S. law because they are under Chinese threat. Singapore is inviting U.S. plan to expand the size of U.S. military base. Even Vietnam, who fought against U.S. in 1970s, is calling for U.S. to help. What the U.S. military presence does is to push government into accepting people's demand for liberalization. Because this policy will create the relationship of dependency between U.S. and countries in the region. In countries like Singapore, Burma, and Vietnam, their national security will become dependent on the U.S. This means when people go out to the streets and protest, or when there are other opposition movements within authoritarian regimes, the U.S. can use its leverage on oppressive leaders to meet the demand of its own people. Because their position will be endangered if both U.S. and its people abandon their regime. their best choice will be allow freedom of speech or constitution reform or free election. What we want to say is not America will not things. America will force the country to introduce democracy. But we want to say that when there is a movement of democracy, America can push. America can make the last push to be the democratic countries. You know, if there is a presence, U.S. military presence, at least we can see that that country will depend on America in the field of military. If America, it is impossible for that country in the long run when it is impossible to refuse American demand when the military is depend on that. When the military in that country depend on America, because when America, if the American military go back to America, these countries, even dictator, will be attacked by China. So even for dictators, there will be the situation that dictator must give up the dictatorship and admit democracy. For this reason, we on the government proposition side strongly believe that we need greater U.S. military presence in East Asia. Thank you for listening.
We thank the second speaker from proposition and for the second speaker from opposition.
If there is an enemy next to your border, the only natural reaction is that you would increase your military and there will be increased tension inside this region. That's what Team Czech Republic stands for. We say that US presence is only increasing tension inside the region and increasing aggression from China. So in my speech, I will firstly have 3 points of rebuttal. Firstly, about the context of the region. Secondly, about the conflict and why presence is not necessary. Thirdly, about democratization brought by Team of Japan. And then I will bring my own constructive point about North Korea and how the tension will occur even with North Korea and USA. So first, to the context. Team of Japan was trying to make you believe that there is an increasing tension just by China and that they have incentive to increase this tension and to be aggressive for other countries. What we see is that tensions currently in 21st century are being created by USA. We have brought you example how USA was sent their military, and the only natural reaction after that by China was that they sent their military inside this region. Therefore, what we see is that the tension created in the region are currently done by USA. Moreover, let's take the example of Taiwan. Taiwan currently has a great relations with China, and what is happening now in this region is that USA forced Taiwan to actually be protected, military protected from China, even if Taiwan is not really able to defend themselves, and they don't want to defend themselves against China. They have strict economic relations with China. They have a good diplomatic relations with China. And what is happening now is that USA is creating tensions between those two states and between other states with China. Therefore, Team Japan is wrong in their perception that China is the one who is creating the tension. And we see that by withdrawing the army of USA, we would just create less tension inside the region, and there will be natural sphere of influence created by China. No, thank you. Now, second point of rebuttal, conflict and presence of USA. Here we have basically two subpoints. Well, firstly, they told us that USA has no intention to actually help other countries if they would withdraw from the region. But there was firstly logical mistake, because they told us that there is no intention and no interest of USA to have some sort of influence inside the region. And on the other hand, they also said that they are able to defend the countries if they are here. So what we see is that even if USA withdraw from region, still they would be quite able to react if something happens and if conflict occurs. Moreover, what we say is that there is international community which is working system and can deter China from creating conflict. And therefore, if something happens there, the only result will be that international community will force China to stop their conflict. Yes, sir.
So if you say international community works, why did China invaded the islands in Japan? They are still going to try to invade the islands.
Thank you. The point is that this tension and this reaction from China was done by increasing military of USA, and therefore China has seen that USA are creating bases on for example, Japan. They are sending their armies into Japan, and therefore the natural reaction is that they will send their army inside this region. Therefore now the deterrence does not work simply because there is high US military presence. So the only result is that we will withdraw from region, deterrence will start to work because China will see that there is no tension done on them, and therefore there will be no intention and to do other offensive actions by China. So this is the deterrence we propose. Moreover, what we say is no conflict will ever occur. Why? Well, let's analyze the situation in China now. China and USA are dependent on each other. There is a strict economic relations with those two countries. They have to cooperate in order to be successful. And China is trying to be part of the international community. Recently, they were accepted to be a member of WTO, and they are trying to increase their relations even further. And therefore we see that there is no intention of China to increase tensions just by themselves. Well, and last point of rebuttal about democratization. They said that USA will help to democratize the region. But in last 10 years, USA was trying to do that in many other countries. The result was that only tensions were created in such regions, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and no good result was ever done. Moreover, the thing, what will happen there is that USA will only show China that they are influencing their areas or sphere of influence of other countries. And therefore, no democratization will ever occur because those countries will only see that someone else is trying to intervene into them, and only another tensions and possibility of conflict will be increased because USA was trying to intervene in other countries and to show them how they should behave. And now to my own constructive point, which is about North Korea, which was completely forgot by the team of Japan. And here we have two analyses, basically. Firstly, that in North Korea there is power struggle, and secondly, about the fear. So, A, to the power struggle. We see that North Korea has unique military dictatorship. That means that many military officers are struggling for power and trying to gain as much power as possible. And this struggle for power is being done by undertaking military actions if they have reason. And therefore, those military officers are not actually cooperating with each other, and the whole military is not cooperating with each other. And they are trying to have power over the North Korea. And therefore, if there is possibility and opportunity to do military action, they will do it because they want to demonstrate their power on other countries and show their population that they have power in their hands. And therefore, that means that North Korea is basically very unstable. We see that they have a huge army. They can undertake military actions if they want. They also legitimize their rule over the population by showing that there is enemy they have to actually solve, and they are showing their power for the population by showing and demonstrating one enemy behind their borders. And therefore, US military presence is only increasing tensions inside North Korea as well. And second aspect of North Korea is fear. Their whole political system is based on fear. Therefore, if there is reason to be afraid of some country, they will undertake military actions. So, they firstly have fear of Western powers. Why? Because they lost their allies in the past, like, basically Russia and China, and they are being alone. Therefore, they are afraid of Western powers, mainly of USA, because USA put them on the axis of evil and have big pressure on them. So the result is that North Korea is a very irrational country and can undertake military actions if they want. And therefore, there is even higher probability of conflict if USA is there. So as a result, we see that Team Czech Republic is the one who tries to propose peace inside this region, and therefore I beg you to oppose the motion.
We thank the second speaker from opposition and call on the proposition third speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, team opposition has an ideal concept that only by international communities or by doing the diplomacy, by compromising, the problem in status quo can be solved. We on the team proposition strongly believe that it cannot be solved because we are now doing asking the international community to solve these problems, and we are now compromising, but the China still try to invade other countries' island, right? Therefore, we on the team proposition strongly think that something new must be done. If the most proper way and the most effective way to do it is to introduce greater US military forces in East Asia. So, I have 3 clash points in today's debate. First is, which is better for safety in East Asia? And second of all, which is the correct, never mind, which is, will the competition really occur in East Asia? And third of all, about the argument gave by the second speaker of team opposition, it is North Korea argument. So the first clash is which is better for safety in East Asia. Let's look at the team proposition's opinion. They said the intention of China in the present world is caused by the existence of US military forces. It is not true, ladies and gentlemen. In 1988, the China invaded the islands in Philippines, as our first speaker said, in that, no, thank you, sir. In that time, there was no U.S. military forces because no, thank you, madam. Because U.S. military is went back to USA, and the China came to the Philippines Islands and attacked them. This is the fact, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure.
So it was not caused by the presence of U.S. militaries. And so thank you, sir. Aside from the U.S. military presence, as our first speaker said, China has first island chains plan to invade other countries, to secure their territories, right? Therefore, U.S. military is not the cause of the intention of the China in the present world. And second of all, you should look at the status quo, ladies and gentlemen. In many countries in East Asia, they're asking the U.S. military to come in to these countries. Why? It is to protect the sovereignty and the citizens in these countries.
On that one, sir.
No, thank you. This country knows that only by compromising with China or by asking the international community will not work effectively, and as a result, in the status quo, they are asking the U.S. military to come. Why it is important? I will explain. Because if the U.S. military presence is there and China are still going to invade, it proves that China has the intention to fight with USA. Therefore, China, as the team proposition also said, that China are afraid of the serious damages by the USA. Therefore, the presence is very important because China can recognize the damage very soon, and they will recognize the damage will be massive because the US presence will be there.
On that point, sir.
No, thank you. Therefore, to keep the safety in East Asia, we think team proposition win in today's debate. And second of all, it is about the argument of competition gave by the first speaker of team proposition. First of all, competition will not work. As we said, USA has the most strong economic forces to support the militaries in USA. This is the status quo.
On that point, sir.
Yes, please.
That's not true. China has created huge economy working in China, and therefore they are competing with USA in terms of economy, military, and power.
Yes, I admit, but the extent is not true. The team proposition wants to say that China will sooner or later go up to the USA. It is completely not true, ladies and gentlemen, because in the first place, USA has much more GDP. That proves it has the economic power. No, thank you. And even though you say China can spend much money to military, it is not true, ladies and gentlemen, for two reasons. Because in China, it has domestic problems, for example, environmental problems, and second of all, there is economic gap, ladies and gentlemen. So there is no enough incentive for China to spend much more money to militaries than USA, right? So there is no competition. And second of all, even the competition will occur, we should welcome this, because when you look at the example of Cold War, ladies and gentlemen, the nuclear weapons, the number of nuclear weapons increased between the USA and the Soviet Union, but there was no direct army conflict in the real world, right? No, thank you. Therefore, it proves that the logic of the deterrence will work, because they know the damage given by war conflict will be massive, right? Therefore, it will surely be working as a deterrence. Therefore, even though the competition occurs, there is no problem. And third of all, it is comparative debate, right, ladies and gentlemen? The citizens in East Asian countries or the governments in East Asian countries will think that which is better, controlled by USA or controlled by China. China has strong intention to invade. But USA is not same, because the concept among these countries is democratization or economic interest, not like China, ladies and gentlemen. So, okay, so USA, in the comparative debate, USA is superior. For these countries, USA is much better than China. And third of all, about the argument of North Korea. First of all, it is not unique, right? No, even in the status, the harm the team proposition gave us is happening in status quo. We are not sending battleships to North Korea, but they are increasing their military forces in the reason that they are fear of the attack, or they are fear of economic crisis, right? But so as I said in the first place, that something must be done in the status quo. It is introducing U.S. military forces and showing them that if they attack, the damage will be massive. Why North Korea can continuing their actions that there is no military forces of the USA? We are very proud to propose. Thank you.
We thank the third speaker from opposition and call on the third speaker from opposition.
Humans started to solve conflict by force many years ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago, and it never worked. And therefore today, as the side of opposition, we do not want to use force. We want to use sanctions, embargoes, or anything that will be peaceful, that would not harm the relationship of the China and of the United States of America if it is needed. But we simply do not want to use force, since there is a high possibility of the conflict arising from that. In my speech, I need to talk about two main points. Firstly, about the context of the debate, and secondly, about the conflicts, their possibility to arise, and also their impact. So to my first point about the context. And there I will explain you who are the actors that are involved in this debate, and how they're going to behave, and how they're behaving right now. So firstly, to China. And there we say that China is a body that is in the long run becoming better. They're trying to democratize, they're developing their economy, and they're simply making the whole situation better. They're also becoming part of the international community. They're trying to cooperate. And one of the most important things they're doing is being part of the whole world, not being separated and trying to be a good guy, not the bad one. And they also really much care about what the other states think about them. They're trying to help the other states, and they're not harming basically anyone. And we say that China today is not aggressive, and they do not have any kind of intention in that. Because they are building their whole legitimacy and their whole success on a good economy. If they're going to be in a conflict, if they're going to harm the relationship with the United States of America, nothing good comes from that for them. They want to trade, and for example, Southeast Sea is very important for them, and if there is going to be conflict in it, they're going to be harmed. They have no intention to do something bad that would, for example, invade Japan or any state that is around them. And we say this is extremely important in the debate. Well, the second actor here will be the United States of America. And they are in the region since the Second World War, which means 1945. And therefore we say that even during the invasion of Philippines, they were there. And therefore one of the reasons why all this actually happened. Since they are a big competitors for China, China naturally feels endangered by them in the region. Well, for example, if China started to do something in Mexico and started to send battleships there and started to invade it, or started any kind of conflict near the United States of America, they would of course also feel endangered, since we say it's natural, and since they have a spheres of interest near them. And we say that the United States of America are the bad ones here, since they are coming to someone else's region. They're intervening it, and they're even saying to the states that are near China to be against China. They're stopping the trade of them with China, and they are forcing them into it by making them really feel that they have something to give to the United States of America because of this protection, and also because of the fact that they also have a large influence here. What we say is that we need to have China away, we need to have the United States away from the China, since the only thing that could arise from that is the conflict. And we say that the United States of America are, of course, a big part and big rival for the China, and therefore we do not see why it should be part of the region where is China. Thirdly, there is North Korea, and we say that this is extremely dangerous and extremely serious case. Since they are having a fear, as we already explained to you, they are having great ambitions, and they are having troubles with most of the Asia and also with most of the world. And we say that they are dangerous for the other states, and also in the case when America is there. If America wasn't there, they would not feel anyhow endangered by America, they would not feel fear, and they will maybe even democratize, start to cooperate with the states that are around, which would be also helpful. And lastly, to the other states, and then we say some of them are not democratic, but they are trying to go against China, which is basically not good for them nor for China. And if they rather try to cooperate, which they will be motivated to if they're not going to be somehow protected by China and helped by China, it would be better even for them. So we see that China is not actually the bad guy that is trying to kill everyone around. They're actually someone who is trying to be peaceful, but who has a large struggles with their rivals. Now let's look on how the conflict will look. But before that, yes, sir.
If you say China is not bad guy, why can't you say China has done a lot of trouble things to the countries in East Asia? Please explain.
Thank you. What I'm saying is that all the actions that China did were provoked. The United States of America played a large role in the protection of China's interest, in something that the China needs to do in order to show that they really feel bad for doing this. And they, for example, signed a contract that all those islands near Japan and in the sea are not going to be for anyone, basically it's not going to be nationalized. And what Japan with America did was that they came to the islands and claimed it's theirs. And of course, China feels that this is not okay, that they're endangered, and this situation is unfair. And therefore they simply went there and started to what you say is some kind of attack to the nations. But we say that this is legitimate, and in many cases, this makes sense for China. But moreover, we want to talk about the conflict that may arise. And there we showed you the comparison of the two conflicts that may arise in your model and in our model. What we showed you is the possibility of basically a next Cold War, not so serious, but something that could arise from a cooling of the relationship between the USA and China. We say that such a thing may happen because of the reason that they are going to compete even more than they do right now. They're going to feel that they're threatened by each other, and they're stop cooperation which they do right now. And this is something which is of course not going to happen in the next 2 years. And this is not going to be, it's going to be like in the next 30 years or even more. But the trend of making the situation in the East Asia and in the whole world worse, we say is much more important than few islands in the sea, which we of course say is not so good thing. But even if such an invasion would happen, and even if few islands in that sea may be in danger, we say that this is something that we are able to sacrifice if we're talking about the global peace, and something that we all need to value. We also showed you how even the conflicts in the local sphere are going to be even worse by this. Since all the nations that are here feel protected by the United States of America and are provoking China by doing many steps towards America, but also against China. And we say this is one of the reasons why there's such a great tension. Why all these conflicts that they keep repeating us, not explaining why they're happening and ignoring the causes are happening. Because of the simple fact that the America is saying to the states that are near China to be against China, which is extremely dangerous. We say that if America went away,
they would be forced, firstly, to cooperate with China, which would help both sides. But secondly, they would also try to protect themselves. They would try to help. They would try to talk to China and solve it in a peaceful way. But they do not have any necessity to do it right now, which we say is not a good thing. But secondly, to democratization, and there we showed you that it's only going to be a worse situation. Well, firstly, we say that democratization by the United States of America usually does not go on well. Secondly, we told you that China and also the other states around are only going to be really angry about the fact that America is invading the countries, doing interventions here, and showing a power above all the states. And we say this is not a good thing, and this is going to only lead to more conflict. So for all these reasons, we believe that the situation should go to a point when all the countries will protect themselves and not depend on the United States of America.
We thank the first speaker from opposition and call on the opposition reply speaker.
Giant, when its territory is being threatened, invades and roars around. And that is exactly what China is doing currently and will continue to do if the United States keeps its presence and increases it in the future. In my last speech today, I'm going to explain you in answering 3 questions why the side of opposition was better in showing you that a conflict will not stop and that it will actually get worse and the tension will get worse if the United States remain there. The first question will be about if the conflict is currently possible to happen. The second, about whether the United States would be able to bring the democracy as it was proposed by the side of opposition. And last, about what the United States does in the region and how what is the possible future scenario. So now moving on to the first question, which is about the possibility of conflict. The only explanation done by the side of proposition was by listing many examples of what China is done and has done in recent year in East Asia. However, on that they have never been able to provide us with analysis how that is not only a reaction. On the other hand, we've explained you how the United States kept increasing its presence. How in 2010 they sent and deployed their aircraft carrier. We explained that the presence has been permanent since the Second World War, and how the presence has been a great amount of motivation for China to not only arm itself but also to act. Therefore, on this case, we do not want you to believe that these examples were the reason why China will attack, but they were the reason why the United States are the ones that are creating the tension. The second question was about whether the United States are able to bring democracy. And yet we explain you how the United States actually has never been actually able and be successful in democracy as a democracy spread. We listed an example of Afghanistan and Iraq. Moreover, China is much less likely to listen to the United States when it is concerning its internal things. And the side of a proposition in this case only proposed some kind of a military intervention, which we do not believe will bring any of the peace and any democracy. And also we explain how it is much better to do it in a peaceful way, for example, using international community and embargoes and sanctions, and how it is and has been much more effective. And the last question about what actually will happen if the United States stays in the region and will increase its presence as the side of the proposition is proposing. And yet we explain that there will be an increased amount of tension. We explain that there are basically 2 levels how it will manifest itself. And the first one was the local level. We explained that there will be a lack of cooperation between these countries, lack of trust, and there will be increased tension, and these countries would not be able to cooperate. cooperate. They will feel much more enmity towards themselves. And also we will explain how there will be also a global level of tension, which is much more dangerous and harmful from many reasons. For example, it will impede the economic negotiations, it will impede security negotiations and diplomatic relations. Not only that these countries would not be able to compromise, that they will have disputes between themselves. They would not be able to talk to themselves, and they will be reluctant to cooperate. And the world itself will find itself in the edge of a possible conflict. So from all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, that the side of opposition was able to provide you the analysis why, and provide with examples why the United States are the ones that is actually creating the conflict, why they are provoking, why China is only protecting itself and only reacts on what the United States are doing. And then we explain how the United States actually are not able to do any of the proposed plans, and that are actually only increasing the tension and harming the situation on a local and global level. So from all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, the side of opposition does not want to provoke the lion and wants to keep the peace and stability. Thank you.
We thank the reply speaker from opposition and call on the proposition reply speaker to conclude this debate.
If we are talking about Japanese military presence, their logic can be true. But thanks to, because we are talking about Chinese military, our analysis is much better. I have three questions in this round. First is, reason for China to expand military. This is clear. It is possible for China, because it is possible for China to achieve the official plan, first island chain, that is to invade small countries, because it is possible for China, they are expanding the military. As whip speaker said, we have clear example. China started invading Philippines island just after U.S. military left. China started invading Japanese territory just after America started to withdraw U.S. military presence in Japan. On the other hand, they deny this point by saying economic sanction or diplomatic relation can deter China. No way! We have done, but we know that this failed in failure. That's because we need military presence. Because in this field, proposition can win in this debate. Second question is democracy and economy or force. We can at least say that diplomacy or economic sanction cannot be the solution. They cannot deny the example of economic sanction against Japan. Even though China and Japan has great economic relation, China are willing to cut this relations so that they can achieve their clear aim, that is first island chain. This is the complete. This is very unique example for Chinese military. So what we can deter Chinese military is what can prevent China from achieving this first island chain plan, and that is force, only force. So we need more force, more presence in East Asia. And third is whether or not this is American invading. Don't forget, there is the, as we said, there is the fact that countries surrounding China in East Asia are now welcoming United U.S. military. Even Vietnam, who fought in 1970s, are now are demanding U.S. military force so that they can defend from China. And so far, we can say that this is not, even though America expanded presence, U.S. military presence in East Asia, this cannot be invading. And also, we have better effect to citizens in that countries. that is, make democratization. Don't forget, as I said, America have no intention to force the dictators to admit democracy. But America can make last push. When citizens in that country demand democracy, America can make last push to make democracy. For this reason, we can say that U.S. military presence in East Asia is not American invading. Because thanks to this situation, thanks to the uniqueness of Chinese military, we can say that for China we need force. For China we need force. So we'd like to take this plan. Thank you for listening.